Now we've seen it all from ANTEC, from premium cases to their mid-range and budget cases. And right here we have something, I would say a budget case, without a doubt, because first and foremost, it got me by surprise, because I didn't thought I couldn't place my RTX 4080 Super Gaming X3, oh, X Slim, sorry. So, apart from a 360 on front, you can't place a long GPU unless you place 240 on top. But there's a trick, there's a tricky part for that as well. And I'm gonna break down literally everything so you know what's it all about this case. So today we're going to talk about ANTEC AX67 addressable RGB, which comes with 4 pre-installed fans. You have to connect them to your SATA connection from your power supply, and then you can daisy chain it. Well, it's already daisy chained at the back, but then you can connect it to 3-pin 5 volts addressable RGB header on your motherboard, and you have an option to control it with the reset button. Well, basically it's not a reset button, in that case it's an LED button. But let's break it down and see what we have right here. So this case supports up to 8 fans, 2 on top, 1 at the rear, 2 at the power supply shroud, and 3 in front. The stock, how it arrives from the box, you have 3 on front 120 and 1 at the back. So that kind of sums it all up when we're talking about the fans. Now, apparently you could place 2 140 at the top, but I would definitely not suggest going with that, because we have quite small space, and I'm saying small space, literally less than a millimeter. And you can see from a close-up, it's not touching the VRM heatsink, but it's very, very close. And I would definitely suggest, if you're going in this type of combination, so 360 at the front, 120 here, eventually there's no point of placing fans here on the power supply shroud, because there is no additional intake except for the front 120 here at the bottom. But that won't be any, let's say, usage of that fan, because you have cables here, you have power supply here that creates additional heat. So I would just remove the fans from this, because your GPU will most likely get a couple of degrees higher, and there's no point in that. So the next thing, I was afraid of a 360 at the front. And it wasn't because of the chassis design or anything similar to that, it was because of the cables from the IO ports on the top, because they were sticking quite a lot, but you have to rearrange the cable routing, and that's basically it. And the third thing, so apart from the VRMs, apart from the 140mm fan clearance here at the top, apart from the cables, there's one more thing. It has limitations for the GPU. So if you go with radiator 240 at the top, then we have a situation with the VRM heatsink, but I think that could be pulled off. But you could, in that scenario, go with a longer card. If you go with a 360 at the front, you're limited to 31 centimeters approximately. And I wouldn't even go with a longer card than 31 centimeters, because when I was checking out the size and the space of it, you have this part right here that is sticking out. So you don't have enough clearance to push 31.5 centimeters inside, because the expansion slots that need to be placed here at the back to hold the graphic card will definitely get stuck. I couldn't wiggle in the RTX 4080 Super, even though it could fit. It would be less than a millimeter towards the radiator, but then again, how would the thermals be? And I was quite curious to see that part, but unfortunately I couldn't do it. I really tried going with vertical and then just flipping the GPU. You can't do it. Going diagonal, you really can't place card that is right from one edge to another, which is kind of logical, and I won't go too much into that. In general, when we take into consideration the back side, you have loads of space in terms of reorganizing the cables, and not only that, those extrusions to zip tie the cables and make it look quite tidy, and that's really good. You have options for 13 millimeters behind the motherboard and 24 millimeters behind, well, on the side, to the right side of the motherboard. And over there, where you have the 24 millimeter spacing, on front, right here where you see all the components, you have a possibility to place two 2.5-inch SSDs. Now let's break it down with the specifications and compatibility. ATX, micro ATX, and ITX support for your motherboards. CPU cooler height is maximum 160 millimeters. GPU length, when the fan is installed on the front just like this, but without the radiator, is maximum 345. When the fan is installed at the rear, so inside, is 320. I would definitely suggest 310. And when the 360 radiator is installed in the front, then we have 290. Well, you can see from a close-up that with the meter that I placed here, you can see that 310 fits without a problem. And I think that would be quite okay-ish, even with this part right here. You just have to wiggle it a bit, but that's okay. You have two 3.5-inch drive mounts here at the bottom, or if you switch one 3.5-inch, you can go with one 2.5-inch. So it's either one of those. And two 2.5-inch on the side, as I already mentioned. Power supply length. Now this is a tricky one. With included cable, with the hard drive cage, is up to maximum 165. With including cable, with hard drive moved to the left, is 205. And without the hard drive, you have the complete power supply shroud open at 345. Now I used HCG 1000 Platinum, and just by the cable going over the hard drive cage, it fits. Now let's quickly go to the I/O panel, and what I mentioned, you have the LED control button, but you can also go with the reset button if you desire to go and switch everything up. So we have power button, LED control button, two indication lights, two USB 2.0, microphone and headset jack at the top, which are separated, and one USB 3.0. I know it's a budget case, and we're talking about no USB Type-C. We're talking about USB 2.0 and one USB 3.0, and you're limited with that. I do have to admit that. But then again, we're talking about budget. The Type-C might increase the price. You're having already 4 fans. You just need either a CPU tower cooler that is up to 160, and believe me, there are good air coolers up to 160. You just need one fan here at the top, just one, not two, one, and you have a perfect airflow. And basically, when we take into consideration the process of building inside this chassis, it is actually straightforward. I didn't have any problems placing the radiator, even though I thought about the cables. It might be, there isn't. You just, well, basically push through the cables, that's it, no problems. Fans on the top, no problem. It was quite close to the VRM, but there was no problem. I was giving you my concerns prior to the building, so just to give you an idea what you could expect. And of course, the only surprise was the GPU, because honestly, I didn't read the specs. I just wanted to try and see, just to give you more information firsthand, what I encountered. And that's all there is to it. So let's check out the performance, and let's check out the thermals, benchmarks, and everything all together. So we have ANTEC AX67 addressable RGB. ANTEC Vortex Slam 360 is cooling down AMD Ryzen 9 7900X3D, and unfortunately, this is the only smaller card that I have. This is Intel Arc A750. So when we go in AIDA64 Extreme Edition, CPU went up to 86 degrees, clock speed was 4850 MHz, and the GPU is 67 degrees. In Cinebench R23, as per usual, we have average of 10 runs. Thermals on the CPU are quite solid, 84.2. The clock speed was actually constant throughout whole 10 benchmarks, 4975. And then we go with Cinebench score. It was literally almost everywhere, but there was consistency, I do have to admit. So the first round was 26,685, and then the lowest point was 25,978. And the average out of all 10 rounds was 26,443. I did add another benchmark, Cinebench R24. The average thermals out of 10 rounds was 80.2 Celsius degrees. The clock speed was 5065, and the score was 1515 on average. What I can say about this case, if you're going with high-end components, okay, the CPU will survive, the GPU depends. If you're going with some RTX cards, or in general some Radeon cards, even though I'm not quite sure if I saw a Radeon card with 2 fans. 2 fan cards will definitely fit without a problem, and you don't have to worry about that. If you go with a 360 on front, that's okay. It will cool down the CPU. The only issue you might notice is 1 to 3 degrees increase on the GPU because of the hot air running here. It's not that drastically hot, but still. And this is a budget case. We have to take that also into consideration. Budget case, 4 fans, compatibility with ATX power supply, motherboard, GPU up to 310 or anything around that. And if you go with an air cooler, you could actually stretch it to 345, and that's good because the fans that are installed from the box are placed in front, so you have all the space that you need for a long GPU. The only thing that is out of everything that I mentioned, so all of that I can forget. I can forget the VRM clearance, I can forget the cables at the top, and I can even forget the GPU because, as I said, it's a more compact case, more budget friendly and stuff like that. The only thing I can't pass through is the 4 thumb screw holding the tempered glass. So if you're a bit, and I'm not insulting anybody, but if you're a bit on the clumsy side, and you just have to be really careful untying those 4 thumb screws so you don't break the tempered glass. This is just a small warning or just to give you an idea, and that's it. I mean, we're past those 4 thumb screws on tempered glass. We have 1 thumb screw here holding pegs on top. I don't know if this increases the price drastically or you have some, I don't know, additional maneuvering when we're talking about, of course, we do with CNC machining and everything and cutting out the steel and stuff like that. But I'm really going into details with this case, and I don't know why. But the thing is, it's a budget case, and yeah, that's basically it. You know the pros, you know the cons, and I think it's time for you to decide basically if this case will be suitable for you. You know the specs, you know the thermals, you know the performance, and you know everything that you need to count on when building inside this case. So all in all, guys, hope this helped you a bit with the ANTEC AX67 addressable RGB. Of course, for the Vortex Slum 360, I don't have to say anything because it's a solid performing AIO. And for the power supply HCG 1000 Platinum, I know it's too strong for this PC in general, but as you know, I always go with a single brand when we're talking about components, just to make it look OCD free. That's it. Guys, thanks for watching today's video. I'll place the links, of course, for the AX67 addressable RGB and Vortex Slum 360 and HCG 1000 Platinum in the description below. If you desire to, I don't know, combine, go separately for different components in a different build. And that'll be all for today, guys. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, click the notification bell, and hopefully I will see you in another one. Thanks. Bye-bye.